A book that I came out with in 2003 called Set the Shotgun to the Head. The book itself is basically one long poem written in the voice of a man that I characterize as a modern-day John the Baptist. It's telling of the coming of a female Messiah that he has known intimately. And she is one in many. She's Kali, the Hindu goddess of destruction and creation. She's Oya, the Yoruba Orisha of death and rebirth. She is the Holy Ghost, which is to say the woman restored to her rightful place in the Holy Trinity. You know, common sense would tell you that a Holy Trinity would be mother, father, child. Not father, male child, and ghost. Notice I haven't been struck by lightning. I believe that that is the weapon of mass destruction that our world is, suffering for. I believe that when you take the idea of what is feminine out of the idea of what is divine or what is creator or what is creative, then you misunderstand power, you misunderstand creation, you misunderstand divinity. And from that, what I point to is essentially like, I think of, talked about this earlier today, I think about like that Bush comment post 9/11, like gets on TV and he's like, we will show no sign of vulnerability. And I hear that and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But it relates all the way back to that Trinity and that, religious stance, which is founded on something that is, in my opinion, quite different from the teachings of Christ. For instance, vulnerability. We will show no sign of vulnerability. I think about the skateboarder, who if they show no sign of vulnerability or flexibility, tries, a trick on these steps here, falls and breaks every bone in their body. But the one that shows signs of vulnerability falls, she gets up, she keeps on rolling. I think of the drunken driver, who because of their drunken state shows every sign of vulnerability. The steering wheel goes boom and they go boom with it. They're fine, but the person in the other car fears for their lives. They stiff it up and show no sign of vulnerability and break every bone in their body. I think of the African American experience who, despite, the screw faces you see in videos or on the streets and what have you, like, those screw faces are brand new. Don't let them fool you. Like, we are here today and overcoming in all the things that we are because despite what has been done, what has been said, we have maintained a sense of, well, we'll make music of it. Well, it's all right. It'll be all right. Come on in and let's get something to eat. We'll deal with it later on. All right, well, here we go now. It's our vulnerability that has allowed us to withstand the pressures of time and what have you. But vulnerability is something that through time has been associated with the idea of the feminine and the idea of weakness. My understanding of vulnerability is that vulnerability is the ultimate power. I think of the difference between the MC and the poet. Because hip-hop is competitive, the MC, takes on, the hardened stance of showing no sign of vulnerability. Son, I'm heartless. Sons can't fuck with me. These sons, these kids can't see me, black. This whole idea of just like, you don't want to fuck with this. You better act like you know something. Like this whole sense of just like, I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you. Bring it, bring it, bring it, bring it. This whole sense of manifesting this hip-hop ideology of act like you know, right? Master of ceremonies, the MC. Whereas the poet realizes that their power is in admitting that they don't know, that they're figuring it out. Who's keeping it more real? Where is the real power? In acting like you know or admitting that you don't. Admitting the vulnerability is the thing that connects us. It is the thing that brings out our humanity. You know, I get tons of writers sometimes who say stuff to me like, I'm afraid to share what I've written because sometimes it feels so personal, I don't know if anybody would get it. You know, and I think of like, well, really I find that the more personal the story that I share, the more people are like, oh my God, you get that too? I feel the same way. It happened to me when I, you know, like this thing where they connect, it brings out the essence of us, you know, so that essentially I have a well in my backyard and you have a well in your backyard, and we go to these separate wells to get water, but we know when we dig deep, that source of water is the same and communal. So that these individualized approaches serve us only in that they lead us to each other. Vulnerability is power. Showing no sign of vulnerability is the ultimate sign of weakness.
Yep.
Is the ultimate sign of inhumanity. It's how to get your ass beat. Essentially, you think of the capoeirista, you know? The capoeirista is there showing every sign of vulnerability, you know? They're flexible, they're all over the place. The other guys, you know, when they do those whatever they call it, types of fighting where it's like, okay, we're going to put the capoeirista versus, you know, the kung fu guy, you know, or whatever, you know? And you see the vulnerability prevail over stiffness every time. The flexibility, the openness, the invitation of bring it on, come on, it's all right. Oh, yeah, that's cute. You know, so that when you take the idea of what is feminine out of the idea of what is powerful, you don't understand power. When you take the idea of what is feminine out of the idea of what is divine, you don't understand divinity. Anyway, wow, this was all exposition to a poem. Finally, I remembered that. Like, oh, that's right. So anyway, this poem is from this book, Set the Shot into the Head.